Hi, I'm Dana, and I'm looking and sounding and feeling a little bit rough because it was Comic-Con over the weekend and I'm big time still recovering from it, and I'm also just generally in burnout, so I'm having a fabulous time. But I keep seeing the trend on TikTok where people say like common phrases to their kids and see if they can finish them or not. Things like children should be seen and not heard, that kind of thing. And it made me think a lot about the things that my mum said to me when I was a kid, because there was a variety of things that would like make me cry, and she'd be like, oh, why are you being so sensitive? Or like and why are you being so sensitive isn't even one that I was gonna think to include. It was just what she said after she'd said the thing that upset me. And even like up into like my teen years and my early adult years, I would bring them up and be like, you used to say that and it was like really upsetting and mean. And she had explained to me how it wasn't really upsetting and mean, I just took it the wrong way because I'm so oversensitive, to the point where I believed that for like years. Like I would go into therapy sessions and tell my therapist like, no, my family was like great when I was a kid, I had a really nice childhood, I don't know why I'm the way I am. And it's like because I was being like consistently traumatized and then gaslit out of believing that I was being traumatized. It was a whole thing. But because of all that, I assume that these are probably things that other people's parents have said as well, or there's other phrases that are similar enough that we've been gaslit and made to believe are completely normal and perfectly fine things to say to children, that I don't think are nice things to say to children. I don't think are things that should have ever been said to children. And I definitely have had an easier time like processing things and understanding my childhood and understanding how it affects me, knowing what actually happened and knowing that things like this aren't okay, you know? So this video is very much with the hopes that other people will have the moment of like, oh, that wasn't okay, which I know isn't the nicest moment to have, but is a moment that I think most of us need to be able to actually like address things and deal with them and heal from them and all that. So let's get into it. Now, the first one that I'm bringing up is one that mostly came around when I was an adult, honestly, because the abuse changed and grows with the situation. So I had many years where I would try really hard to bring up things from my childhood that I wasn't sure about, that I didn't feel good about, that I, you know, like, that were abusive situations that I had to live through and I didn't understand them as such. So I would bring them up to her, and the main response that I got most of the time was, well, I'm just a terrible mother, aren't I? I'm just the worst mum in the world. And then I would spend the next like 3 hours comforting her and telling her like, no, you're a great mother, you're a great mum, I loved having you as a mum, you did this and this and this. And it was just such a horrible little manipulation tactic to make me believe that not only had my childhood been nice and she'd never done anything wrong, but also to get a shit ton of validation and praise out of me. Like I would genuinely spend hours feeling terrible that I'd made her feel like a bad mum, and making her cups of tea and rolling her smokes for her and being like, I'm so sorry, like you're a great mother, of course you're a great mum. You know, there was no like just normal everyday logic of like sometimes people do things wrong, no one is perfect all of the time. It was very much the idea of either I had to see her as the most perfect mother to have ever existed and she'd never done a thing wrong, or if I had one single issue, I must think that she is just the most horrible bitch of a woman in the entire world and I wish that I'd never had her as a mother, which, yeah, because it was repeated and like constant, but there was just no middle ground there. I could not approach any sort of issue or have any sort of nuanced discussion about my childhood or things that she'd done or said without it just stemming back to like, oh, well, I'm the worst mum in the world, aren't I? I don't know why you bothered to talk to me. And like, projection much. The next one's one that I feel like lots of people have had, and that's that I'll give you something to cry about. I heard that constantly as a kid because I see it's weird because in school I did not let anybody see me cry. I broke my wrist in school and like there was not a fucking chance I was letting those kids see me cry. But at home and like just out in public in general, I couldn't help it. Like I would just cry all the fucking time. I cried over a lot of different things. It would be one of my family members speaking to me in a rude tone, like things being too bright, things being too loud, having the plan for the day change in a way that I wasn't expecting. You know, anything that would put an autistic kid into a meltdown, I would start crying about. And rather than be comforted, rather than try and figure out why it was that I was actually crying, I was just constantly told, shut up or I'll give you something to cry about. And especially for me with my family, that was a threat of violence, you know? I've talked in a video before about how I grew up, like, up until, like, literally, like, I think, like, maybe 6 months ago, I was like, oh no, my family weren't, like, physically abusive, because I didn't think of all the little slaps and taps as physical abuse, because my parents told me it wasn't, it was just a slap, chill out. But it meant that, like, being told, I'll give you something to cry about, that means you're gonna smack me. Like that's a threat of physical violence. That's not making me calm down and stop crying. It's making me more distressed. It's not something you should say to a child. And like when I brought that up to my mum, she was like, I wasn't threatening to smack you. I was just saying that I'd give you something else to cry about. And it's like, well, what would that be? And she'd go, oh, well, I don't know, but it wasn't a smack. And it's like, but it was though. Like, there were multiple times that I didn't stop crying, so you did smack me and I would continue crying and you would get more annoyed at me and send me to my room. You know, like, it's a threat of physical violence and it shouldn't be being said to anyone, never mind a child. And one that my mother, like, vehemently defended. Like, most of them she'd either pretend she hadn't said, she'd pretend that I just misunderstood what she actually meant by it. The one that she just, like, outright defended was that only for me and my oldest brother, I don't remember once hearing her say it to my middle brother because he had a bit of a complex about being, like, the stupid sibling, so he didn't get it said to him. So she did understand, like, what was actually being said here, in my opinion, from making that choice. But she would constantly ask us, are you stupid? Are you stupid? And it'd be while trying to do household chores that she wanted me to, trying to learn how to cook. Like, it was nearly always during a learning situation that she would say to me or my oldest brother, are you stupid? And we'd be like, well, no, of course we're not, but I can't do this. Well, you're not stupid, are you? Do it then. Either you do it or you are stupid. So anything that we couldn't do, she hadn't outright called me stupid, but she'd asked if I was, implicating that if I couldn't do the thing, I must be a fucking idiot. And then I couldn't do the thing. And I brought this up to her so many times because even as a child, I was like, you don't say that to someone, that's a horrible thing to say. And as an adult, she was like, no, that's a completely fine thing to say because I was only asking. You could either stop acting stupid or accept it. No, I wasn't being rude, I wasn't being mean. You need to stop acting stupid and that prompted you. Like, she fully 100% genuinely thought it was a completely okay thing to say. And it's the kind of thing where I feel like maybe I'll get some comments being like, that's not a big deal, like, that is an okay thing to say. But I don't think it is. Like, I don't think it's okay to imply that your child is stupid if they can't do something you're trying to teach them. I think you should be teaching them better. I think you should be assisting them in learning, supporting them in learning a new skill, not implying that they're stupid because they can't do it the first time. Or even if it's like the 10th time, you know, don't imply your kid's stupid because they're struggling with something. And especially when it came to saying it to my oldest brother, because I brought up that, like, it was not said to my middle brother. I brought that up because, like, my middle brother consistently had favouritism. Sorry, I'm not good with words today, I'm tired. But, like, there was a consistent favouritism towards my middle brother, combined with the fact that my oldest brother's diagnosed autistic in childhood, and obviously I was later diagnosed autistic as well. And my mum was very like, well, yeah, it was you two that would just be struggling with things that other people don't struggle with. So that must make us stupid. Duh. Like, oh, lovely. Absolutely delightful way to grow up. Now, one that was said very consistently through my teen years, and that again she defended when I brought it up, was, it's things like this that mean that you don't have any friends. Things like this are why you don't have any friends. Things like this are the reason that you haven't got any friends. And this was said to me so fucking consistently in my teen years. Anything I did that annoyed, pissed off my mother, anything I did that she didn't like, anything I did that she found a bit cringy or weird, she'd be like, and this is why you haven't got any friends, isn't it? Like, if I bought, like, I remember I'd bought this, like, weird little, like, prom dress thing at one point. I was obsessed with it. I thought it looked so cool. I thought it was, like, so, like, vintage and fun. And I'd been, like, just wearing it around the house. And I went into the kitchen, and she turned around, looked me up and down, and just went, well, that's why you haven't got any friends, isn't it? I'm like, what a horrible fucking thing to say to a teenager, you know? Like, it's just cruel. It made me feel horrendous. It was horrible. Like, I was already being bullied in school. I already didn't have friends going on my own age. And my mum's looking at me and going, well, I can see why. My mother. And like I say, this is another one that she defended when I got older and brought it up, because she was like, well, you didn't, did you? I was just letting you know. I was trying to help. If you were aware that, like, the fact that you were fat, the fact that you were annoying, the fact that you were cringy, the fact that you were too loud, the fact that you listened to music that wasn't popular, those were the reasons that you didn't have friends. And I was just sat there like, oh, thanks. Yeah, I think it's entirely valid for a 16-year-old to just not have any friends because they listen to the Beatles. That's, yeah, cool. You know, there was no recognition of the fact that it was a consistent implication that just, like, my personality and the way that I exist as a person and the things that I enjoy and the things that I like are all, everything about me is a completely valid reason for someone to not want to be around me and to not like me. Like, thanks, Mum. That was lovely. Now, the next one's one that I think like specifically got to me because I'm autistic, to be fair. And that was that if I wanted something, if I wanted to go somewhere, if I wanted to do something, if I wanted money to buy something, whatever it was, if I was remotely nagging my mother. I'm so scared of nagging people as an adult, because the way that nagging worked in my family was if I asked for a big thing and my parents said we'll think about it, and I asked a week later if they'd thought about it, I'd be told to stop nagging them. Like, it very minimal asking had to happen before I was just completely nagging them and back off, go away. And that was when my mum would eventually turn around, and this would be like the third or fourth time that I'd asked across a space of like 2 or 3 months, you know. Like, I tried very hard to not piss my mother off and to like follow the little rules that she'd set out and follow whatever boundaries there were to just people please and keep her happy and not piss her off. So I'd be giving long breaks, I'd be asking well in advance so that I could continue asking a few times before like whatever it was. Like, it was a whole process, you know? And honestly, I don't feel like I was fucking nagging because I was giving loads of space, and like, if you just gave me a fucking yes or no answer, I would do something with that. But you just keep telling me you'll think about it, or you'll ask about this, or you'll find out about that, and not giving me a response, which is already really fucking annoying. But eventually it would get to the point where I asked at the wrong moment, or she was just in a bad mood, or I'd asked like too many times, or I think, to be fair, sometimes she'd realise we couldn't afford it and they couldn't, like, I just wouldn't be able to do the thing, and she didn't really want to tell me that. But you know, whatever it was, eventually we would get to the point where I'd ask too many times and she'd turn around and go, oh, just do whatever the fuck you want then. And this would often come with, like, if I'd been asking for something that required money, she'd throw, like, she had like this quite large leather purse with loads of fucking shit in it, and she'd just fucking launch it at me. This is another time where I've always been like, oh my, like, it's not like we were like having stuff thrown at us, and it's like, no, like, my mother actually did throw things at me like multiple times. It was just always like, in the heat of the moment, I'd just be like, oh, what the fuck, and like pick it up and do whatever, you know. But we'd get to the point where she'd tell me, just do whatever the fuck you want, and that was the end of it. I never knew what the fuck I was meant to do. I never knew if that was a yes or no. Like, it just, I would be in like fire. Yeah, like, I would be in just like pure freeze mode, because like, what does that mean? Just give me a yes or no. Am I allowed to go out tonight? If I come home at 10 PM at my curfew, are you going to be really pissed off that I went out at all? Or are you just going to be happy that I came home on time? You're not giving me anything to work with here. I don't know what you want me to do. It's not helpful. You know, it was just another thing that was said so regularly that just made me feel like my mum didn't give a shit about me. That left me feeling like very like dysregulated and disoriented, and like I just didn't know what the fuck I was ever supposed to do. I never knew when the right thing was going to be the right thing or when the wrong thing was going to be the wrong thing. It just, I don't think that any other phrase has ever stressed me out so much, you know? Like, I was trying so hard to like pussyfoot around and walk on eggshells and keep my mother happy, and then she would just snap like that, and I'd be like, oh fuck, like, I don't know if this is a yes or no now. Like, you're throwing your purse at me and the money's in here. I could technically go and like buy the thing I want or do whatever it is I'm trying to do. I don't know anymore. And it would just be like hours or sometimes days or even weeks of being in like a constant wait mode, not knowing what to do, not knowing where to go, like not being able to do anything. And she would see that, and she knew that, and just did it regularly anyway. And that's another one that I brought up in adulthood, and she was like, well, what did you want me to do? And I was like, I wanted you to give a yes or no answer. And she'd start going on rants about how she had to do this and she had to do that. And it's like, yes, I understand that you were a parent and you were like having to do things as an adult. I get that. You really just couldn't say yes or no to me when I asked. Like, really. Like, and like I say, it was a whole process. This would be for like months. And it's like, you couldn't just once say yes or fucking no. And finally, is another one that I feel like a lot of people have had said, and this is one that I have seen in like movies and stuff, to be fair, quite consistently when I was trying to set boundaries, when I was just generally trying to make it a more livable and survivable situation, she would turn around and be like, I'm the parent, you're the child. And that would be the end of it. I had that said to me so many fucking times, and it bugged me every single fucking time. And this was something that didn't get said to me for, like, it did get said to me for a long time, but I don't remember a good chunk of my like early childhood. So from my little brain, it's like it was said to me from when I was 11 until I was about 14, because I remember being in the checkout for a shop in Denmark, and I don't even remember what it was about, but we were like bickering essentially. Like, that's the thing, is even as a child, like as a young teenager, I often just bickered with my mum. Like, it was like talking to another teenager. Like, she was just very difficult to get on with. So we were stood at this checkout just bickering between us, and then she had said something or another, and I was like, no, because that won't work. And she looked at me and she went, well, I'm the parent and you're the child. And I went, well, act like it then. And she froze and she just stared at me. And then like our shopping had got into the thing, so I went and started bagging up. And I remember just standing there next to her, bagging everything up in silence and taking it all out to the car in just complete silence, and getting home and going up to my room, and just nothing was said to me for like 2 days. And then she acted like it hadn't happened. And we had that several times. That happened like reasonably often, where she'd say something and I'd have had enough, and I'd snap back with like honestly quite a fair and logical fucking point, and she would just not speak to me for a couple of days and then pretend it didn't happen. Like, I'd done something on, I think I'd come home drunk actually when I was about 15, 16, and we'd been having this like big argument, and then she was like, oh, and if your friend jumped off a cliff, would you? And I was like, well, probably, yeah, because I don't know what I'm meant to do at any given moment, so I just do what everyone else is doing, and that's the wrong thing to do as well, isn't it? And she just stared at me and then went upstairs, and that was that. So yeah, that's a variety of some of the things that my mother said to me that like, they're just sort of things that bullies say, to be honest with you. Like, they're not that dissimilar. Like, some of them straight up are not dissimilar from the things that the bullies in school said to me. Like, my own mother was my first bully. I know we keep seeing memes about that and stuff, and I am kind of glad to be able to deal with it with humour a lot of the time. But also, like, oh boy, did it fucking suck, you know? I did not enjoy that. That was not a nice way to grow up. That was not a nice person to have as a mother. It really, like, you know, it does upset me that I never got to have a nice mom and never got to have like the mother-daughter relationship that I see other people have, and it does really suck and it's really unfair. But that's how it be, and I can't do shit about it now. But I can unpack this kind of shit and try to feel better about myself, and not have my mother like constantly lurking as a dark figure making me feel like shit even though she's not even here. So yeah, I hope someone's able to like get something out of this video, have some sort of like helpful realization of some sort, feel just a little bit validated and feel like someone else has gone through something similar, any of that kind of stuff. I just really hope it's helpful, because like, it's helpful to me to post, but I don't really want to just post into an echoing void where it sits there and it's just me shit talking my mother with nothing coming from it, you know? I'd like to think that somebody's helped out somewhere by it. So that's the video. As always, please do like and subscribe so I'm like helped out in the algorithm or whatever. I don't understand how the internet works, but you can do what you want. You can follow me over on Instagram, Blue Sky, or TikTok as well if you fancy it. And you can also find me over on Patreon or Ko-fi if you want to. There's no pressure, you don't have to. There is the perk on Patreon now that you get to join the Discord where I hang out like most of the day, every day. But you don't have to, there's no pressure. You can also just DM me for it. Yeah. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.